In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the essential basics of FileMaker scripting by creating this search as you type function inside a FileMaker car database. I'm going to be walking you through step by step of how you can create this function, as well as explaining to you some of the most important scripting concepts along the way. So, stay tuned. Hey, what is up everybody? This is Sunny here from FM Beginner. Now, a lot of people ask me to make a beginner scripting tutorial, so this is the one. And today we are going to be working on this car database kind of thing here. And let me just quickly introduce you to this database, and it's pretty straightforward. We have the car name, the company that is manufacturing this car, and also we have the year of when a car is manufactured. We're not going to be working on making this layout because inside the tutorial file I had already created the basic layout on it already. But what we're going to be focusing on learning is this thing here. It's a search as you type function. So as I'm typing like V, I, T, it starts to slowly filter out all the different options that I have. So when I type VI, it had 10 options. When I start filtering the T, and it becomes like 2. So it's like a search as you type function, and because that's what I think by going through the process we will be learning the majority of scripting basics. So this is what we're going to do today, and let me just walk you through the tutorial overview. Now overall this tutorial is going to be split into 4 different parts, and we're going to work step by step into creating that search as you type function while going through all the basics. So first thing we want to do, we are going to create a single script button. So I'm going to create a button here, and then when I click onto it, it finds something. So I'm going to click this button with the BMW sign on it, and I'm going to find all the BMW company car. Next step, I'm going to make this multi-step script. So click a button, do 2 steps. First I'm going to find, and then next I'm going to sort them by the year. Third step, I'm going to make this dynamic. So instead of fixing this to a BMW, I can type things in here, click find, and then I find and sort just like step 2, but with a little bit more. And finally, we are going to make this an instant. So instead of having to click this button here to search while we're typing, we are going to do all the searching and sorting every single time you type a new letter into it. So we're going to progressing step by step into the final form, which is the full search as you type function. And through the process, I will be explaining basically the majority of the basics you need to know about FileMaker scripting. And so without further ado, I think we are good to go. And before we start, just know that you can download this exercise file in the link in the description down below. It contains the final product with the full search as you type, and also a starting file for you to start working on it. So let's get into the tutorial. Now, first thing I'm going to do is to create the button, single button. So I'm going to go to View, Layout Mode, and then I'm going to add a button here. So click onto the button and drag open. And let's just name this BMW. Well, no specific reason because it's just the easier word to type. And what I'm going to do next is to create the action, which is a single step script. So I want to choose action, single step script, click, and go into this dialog here. So let me just quickly explain this dialog. You can look at this as a 2-part dialog. On the right side here, we have a list of all the FileMaker functions, script step that we can choose from. We can do a lot of things in FileMaker. So for example, we can choose to insert a file, insert PDF, export the record, save it as PDF, and like perform a find request, perform a sort request, and there's a lot of things you can do on the right side here, and it lists out all the different options that you can do in FileMaker. And on the left side here is what our existing actions are. And right now we are using a single step script, so there's only room for 1 line of script here. So what we're going to do first is to use a script called perform find. So if you go to a subsection called found set with this, and there should be a script step called perform find in here. Double click into this to make this perform find show up in here. That means we assigned this script step to this particular button. And the next thing we want to do is to specify the detail about this find. We can do that by clicking this gear button icon and specify. Now let me just quickly remove what we had here. And now the first step you're going to do is to specify the find request detail. So what do you want to find? I can create a new request by clicking new. And then I want to find inside our car table the records with the company field of BMW. So click add and click OK. Click OK again. And now we are ready to go. So we just created a very simple find script to find the car with the company BMW. So click OK and then go to view, browse mode, and let's see what we have here. So now I have all 347 records here. And when I click on this, it shows up all the car options that has the BMW in it. So that's very easy, right? And so now that we have done step 1, we can move on to step 2. So we are going to be making a stacked script, so a multi-step script that we can do multiple things with. To do that, we don't use a single step script. So remember when we choose this button, we choose the single step script. But this time, we are going to use a perform script function. And when you click on the perform script function here, you'll notice that it shows up a dialog asking us to choose a script to use. But we don't have any script yet, so let's just click cancel. And I want to introduce you to another place which is called Script Workspace. So if you go to the top of your menu here, there's something called Script. And if you click Script Workspace, we are going to have another dialog pops up here, which is the place where you'll be managing all your scripts in FileMaker. Now, when I create a new script by clicking this plus button here, you'll notice that this dialog box has become more exciting. We now have 3 different sections in here. First, it's very similar to what we had just now, a list of all the different FileMaker options. In the middle, we have the what we had for the existing script that we do. And on the left here, we will have a list of all the script we made in this file. So if we create a multiple more script, then you will see that these script will be listed here. And when I click on the individual one of them, then I'll be looking into this script to work on it. So let me just quickly delete all these other things here. And we are going to work on our first compound script. So let's click onto this and name this a find and sort. So what we're going to do is that we're going to first find all the BMW car, and then we're going to sort them by the year. So to do that, let's add in the previous script first, which is called the perform find. Now you can add a script step from here by like finding and clicking, or if you remember the name, you can start typing PER, perform, and then you can see all the different options that has the word PER in it, and double click onto this to use this suggestion. And we are going to do what we did just now again. Click the gear button, specify, and now this time FileMaker is pretty smart. It saved down what I tried to find last time, and but we don't want to get too lazy. I want to teach you by repetition. So I'm just going to remove this, and I'm going to do it again. So we're going to select it from the car table, and then company, I want to search for BMW. And click OK, and now we have our first step, perform find. Now to add a new step, just highlight the current step that you're in, your first step of script, click enter. We now created a second step, and start typing the word sort record. So this is another one of the most common script that you'll be using in FileMaker, which is the sorting function. And you can click onto this gear button here, click specify to select what you want to sort. And if you have gone through my basic tutorial from previously, you will realize that this screen is very similar to the sorting button that you press on browse mode. So basically what you do here is I want to sort it by the year. So I'm going to click this, click move, and then I'm going to choose the direction of the sorting. So it can either be ascending order or descending order. Let's choose a descending order, which means the highest number goes on the top. And click OK. And so now we have effectively created a two-step script to work with. The next thing you want to do is to save the script and apply it to the button. So right click onto this and click save, or you can also use a Command S or Control S if you're in Windows to do a quick save. That's what I usually do. And click away, and next step, double click onto our layout button and go to action, select perform script. And now you will realize in here that we can choose the find and sort script that we have specified previously. Or additionally, you can also immediately add a new script here by clicking this plus icon here, or you can edit this script by highlighting this and press edit. But usually I think it's better to just go to the script workspace and work on it. So I want to show you how to do that in that way, because that's like the more proper way to do it. So select this, click OK. And now this BMW button is embedded with our script that we just created in the workspace. So let's go to view, browse mode to play with our script. So when I click on this BMW button, it will find all the BMW car and also sort them by the year from the largest to the smallest. And before we do that, just to make sure that we know it works, we're going to show all the records again. Now click. Now you will notice that after I clicked that button, on the background there is already BMW car all being found ready. And then this sort record dialog pops up with the year already placed in it in descending order. If we click sort again, then we will be able to sort everything by the year. So from 2012 all the way down to 1985. Wow. And so the next thing I want to do is that it's still kind of annoying to like click this button and have to press sort again, because I already specified these options previously. There's really no point for me to do that again. And so what I'm going to show you is I'm going to go back to script workspace and go into our find and sort again. And you will notice that on the sort record step, there's this thing go with dialog equals on. So if I turn this to off, that dialog will not show up and it will just do whatever I specify automatically. And this is pretty important because there's a lot of script in FileMaker that has this option that you can turn on or turn off. For example, if you're using like printing, then you might want to show the dialog before you print to make sure you select the right printer. Or if you already have like scripted the printer into the script already, you might want it to just press and then print and then don't ask for anything else. So this dialog thing is very common, and just so you know, and you have this option to do that in FileMaker. And so we have completed our second step, creating a find and sort script. So let's go to show all and just quickly test our result. Click this. It doesn't ask me anything, just find BMW and sort them by the year automatically. So it's very nice. And the next thing I want to do is to maybe not moving on to the third part yet. I want to slightly improve this a little bit. Notice when I click onto show all and when I click on search, the scroll bar here drops to this point here. That's because when I'm showing all, I might be clicking on this M5 record here. I'm currently like selecting this record, and when I search, my screen moves with me, so that it's showing the current record that I'm choosing. But I think usually what we want to do is to, after you search, to show the top result. So we're going to add one more step into our script. So go to script workspace again, and then I'm going to add a script step called go to record. Now this is a very nice script that you can select to go to the next record, go to the first record, go to the previous record. You can do that by clicking this, and there's many different options of how you want to move your record. But this time I just want to do it as a go to the first record. So what we're doing now, to repeat, find the record BMW, sort them by the year, and then I'm going to go to the first record of the result. Right click, save this. We don't need to apply the script again because it's already saved it in here. Click show all again, and then we're going to find one last time for this section. Click, and you can see we are searching with all the BMW options, sort by the year, and also we are on the top of all the record. So this is going pretty nice, and I think the next step we are going to move to is to make this a dynamic option. So if you recall from my overview, what we're going to do now is to create a field here, and then we can enter the value that we want to search for, click a button, and then find the value instead of right now we are fixing it to just BMW. And to do that, what we need to do is to first create a space for this thing to type into. And this is where something called global field comes into play. So basically we need to create a field that we can use to store some temporary things. That's not a part of the data, but a place for you to enter input details. So we can do that by go to File, Manage, Database, and in the car table, let's add a field called Input. So Input, enter, and we had created this input field. Now highlight this input field, click Option, and we're going to go to Storage and use Global Storage, and click OK. Now I'm not going to go too deep into what global field is. It's not too much to do with directly scripting, but there's a lot of tutorials in the internet that you can search to look for what global field means, and I'm going to probably link up some other videos just so you know. But once we created that global field, what we're going to do is to place that global field here. So go to layout mode, and then we're going to drag a field here and use this input. Delete this, and let's see what happens. So we have now successfully created a global field, and we can type things in here to be the search, to be the input of the search. So the next thing I want to do is that I want this button, or actually the script behind this button, to take the information from here and then search that instead of just searching BMW. Now how do we do that? Let's go back to the script workspace again. Now before I move anything further, I want to sidetrack from this script a little bit, and let's just do some quick experiment to let you understand better. Now first I'm going to introduce you to a script called show custom dialog. So I created a new script. Let's call this shout experiment. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show custom dialog like this, and then click on the specify. We have we can enter the title and also the message. Let's just make it shout BMW and put a quote beside it, and just click OK. And then we're gonna go and just save this script. Now you can assign this script to a button, or if you're just lazy like I am right now, sometimes you don't even need to assign a button to use a script. You can just go to this script workspace, highlight the script, and press this play button to play the script. And what I did just now is that I just did the shout experiment script that I just made, and it just shouted out a dialog box with BMW here. So let's just do that again, because I think I just sidetracked your attention. And highlight this, click this, and it shout BMW. Now, what I want it to do is that instead of shouting BMW, I want it to shout this field that I enter. So maybe first, let me just enter something here. fmbeginner.com for some shameless promotion to my website, and go to shout experiment. And what I want to do, the first thing I can do is that I can go to show custom dialog, change this message, and I want to go to specified. And what I want to do is to specify this to shout the input field that I just created, and click OK. And we are going to save this, Command S, and then click shout again. Now when I click, it's shouting fmbeginner.com. And if let's change it, change my name here, Sunny Chu, and click shout, click again, it's shout Sunny Chu. So it's now dynamic. And the next thing I want to show you is that there's some difficulty with just putting this car ... input thing into my perform find script, because that's like the natural thing to do, right? You want to put this field's information inside the perform find. But to put some text into perform find, we need to do something special. We need to put it inside a variable first. So let me just explain to you what is a variable. So basically what a variable is, it's a container. So let's say I have a container here, and this is a way I can use as a metaphor to explain to you what it is. So let's say I have a box here, and this is a variable, and I can name this variable something like my special box here. Now to name a variable in FileMaker, you have to use a $sign. So right now what I'm doing here is that I just give this box a name called my special box. And what I can do next is that, let's say I have a value that I want to save down. Let's say FM beginner is a thing that I want to save. And I can put this value inside this box here, inside this my special box, like this. So it stores it. And then next time I want to, when I want to use this value inside a script, so this is me, next time when I want to use a value, I just shout out this name. I want to use my special box, and it will give me the value from this special box, FM beginner. So the use of variable in most cases is to store a value so that you can use it at a later time. And there is a lot of instance in FileMaker scripting or programming in general that you want to save a value and then use it later. For example, you might want to save a value from one layout, go to another layout, and then create a new record with that value. And that's one way to use a variable. And in our case, we want to do it so that we can save this value and then put it into our perform find. So let me just quickly show you how we can save the value using, say, set variable first. So go back to script and script workspace. We're gonna do the shout experiment again, but this time I'm gonna change the script using set variable. So I want the set variable to go on the top, because that's the first step we want to do. We want to save the set variable first. So double click and do this. There's a dialog here. I want to name the variable. Well, for easier understanding, to match my metaphor just now, special box. So my special box, and I want to name it FM beginner. Click OK, and then in the show custom dialog here, instead of giving me a fixed value like this, I want to use the value that I had just now, my special box. Click OK, and then save this. Oops. Command S to save. I kind of forget where to do that natively. To do that natively, I think we do it like right click, save. So, and let's just try our shout experiment again. Click that, FM beginner. You will notice that because the first step I did is that I saved this my special box as a FM beginner. Now the next step I want to do is to make this taking the value from input. And so let's go to shout experiment, and I want to specify this as from the input. Click OK and click save, and click shout experiment again. Now it's shouting out the value that I'm typing here. Now it's basically exactly the same as what we had previously, but we add an extra little step. And so the next thing I want to do is that I want to place this thing into our find and sort script so it's dynamic. So go to find and sort, and we are going to create a new line here. Press enter, drag this down a little bit, and then we're going to create a set variable here. Set variable. Click this, and let's give this box a name. Let's name it find criteria. I hope I didn't spell that wrong. And click specify. I want to find the input again, pretty similar, and click OK. So first we have created a box, a variable called find criteria, and we saved the car input. Next step, I'm going to place this variable inside the perform find. So double click into this. Instead of BMW now, I'm going to write in $ find criteria. Change this, click OK, click OK again, and then Command S to save this, and go to here, and let's just change the name of this because it's no longer just for BMW. Double click onto this, delete the word, maybe add a, I like to use a magnifying glass icon, and just go to view, browse mode, and let's do BMW first. Now let's show all instead. Show all, BMW here, click. Now you see we are finding BMW here, and also we can also, let's do Audi. Click, we're finding Audi. So now this search field is dynamic. So it's working pretty well, right? So next thing I want to do is to make this so that it doesn't only search for the company. Right now, if I search, let's say A4, there's no record in there, and because it's only searching for the company. So I'm going to add a few more criteria so that it's that whatever I type here, it will search through both the name and also the company. So go to script workspace again, find and sort script. Inside our perform find criteria, now we have a criteria that search for car company with what we set as a variable previously. So what we want to do next is to click new, and then inside the model field, we're gonna do another find criteria. Click add and OK, just to make sure my spellings are correct. So now whenever you perform the script, it's going to find from the company field of the find criteria and also the model field of the find criteria. Click OK. Command Shift to save this. Let's do A4. Click, and we find 3 different A4 from Audi. So we have kind of expanded this a little bit to make it more dynamic, to search through 2 different fields and to type in anything we want in here. So let's do another test, BMW, and also let's do VI, and there we have it. We just completed step 3 of this tutorial, which is to make this a dynamic searching option. And next step, moving on, it's probably going to be the most exciting part, is to make this a search as you type kind of function. And what we want to do is that right now we are finding record whenever we click enter. So the trigger of the script is when we click into this button. Now there is a lot of different ways that you can trigger a script in FileMaker. And for example, you can trigger a script whenever you enter a layout, or you can also trigger a script when you open the system. And one of the way we can trigger a script as you probably know by now, is when I start typing inside this field. Now, the way to do it is a little bit, it's pretty simple. We can go to View, Layout Mode, and then right click into this field, and then there's an option here called Set Script Triggers. So when I click on Set Script Triggers, there's a lot of different options that I can choose whenever I want this script to trigger. So when object enter, when object is having keystroke, or when object is modifying. So in our experiment to create the search as you type, I'm going to choose on object modify, which is when I start typing something inside this field, then I want it to trigger a script. And I want this to trigger, obviously, our find and sort script whenever we modify this object. So what this does, it's pretty obvious, and it's going to be having a little bit of problem, but let's just let me show you what happened. So start typing V, and now you will notice that it automatically search for all the V stuff in here. But you will also notice when I start typing, right now it's highlighted and there's like a blinking cursor there, VI, and it moves me away from this field. So I can't, if I have to keep typing, I have to keep clicking on it again to keep typing, which is doesn't really make sense. And just now I tried to type backspace 2 times and it gives me an error because I'm not selecting any field. And what's happening is that inside our script step, inside the perform find here, the perform find and sort script will take you away from whatever field you're typing in right now. So what we want to do is to make it so that after we did all these things, we are going to automatically go back to this field here so that we can continue typing. So we're going to add another script into the last line of our script step. We're going to add something called select, actually it's called go to field. So what this does is that it automatically move you back to the field that you specify. And in our case, we are going to go to the target field, which is input. And to recap everything again, so when every time I type something, it saves the find criteria, put it in a perform find function to find the records, and then it's going to sort them by the year, and then it's going to go to the first record so that it's always on the top of the page, and then it's going to go back to our original typing spot here. So Command S to save this, and let's see what happened next. Oops. And let's just show all. There's a little bit problem which we're going to solve later. So type V, and you notice that it didn't automatically move me away from the field. I, T, A, and you will notice that it now moves greatly. Now, you do remember like just now there's like a brief moment of error pops up. So if I click on backspace, 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 backspace again, there's this error pops up. Now that's because right now there's no field in here. I mean there's no word inside this field. And what's happening is that when I click the backspace, it's triggered the field anyways, but there's no value inside this field. So inside the script, the find criteria is empty and it's placed into the find, and we cannot find any record. So if you notice that inside our car database, I start typing SUNNY, which is my name, there's no car that starts with my name here, so I'm not going to find anything. And to stop this from happening, like pops up, it doesn't look super nice, so I want to stop this. There's one way I can do it, is that I can make it doesn't show that error message by using a script called set error capture. So this is another way in FileMaker that you can stop error message from popping up, which is very useful later on when you're doing like more complex script. But you don't really have to remember this now. I just want to show you what can be done and just some interesting things here. And basically I think at this point you already got a pretty good understanding of what script is about. But let's just continue this and see what happens. Save this, and now if I search for nothing, or if I type my name, it just simply show nothing in here, which is pretty nice, and it doesn't affect the whole flow of the program too much. And yeah, so that's basically the finding function that we want, the search as you type function that I promised at the start of the tutorial. Actually, there's one last thing that I want to show you in here. It's a little bit more complex, and if you're a beginner, you're probably overloaded with information by now, so maybe you can come back to this a little bit later. But if you're interested in knowing further, keep watching this video. So one of the things that I like to do about finding things in database is that when I'm empty, I wanted to show all the record instead, because when it's empty, then that means there's no search filter, and intuitively it feels better if when it's empty it shows all the record. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a if function. So if this thing is empty, then I'm going to show all the record. Otherwise, it's going to search and sort like we did just now. So to add an if function in FileMaker, it's pretty easy. And this is very important, especially later on when you have a complex business logic that you want to follow. And using an if function is one of the greatest things invented in computer history. And you probably will be using it if you're doing like serious automation. So if I type in if, click enter, there is a if function here and also an if here. Now what I want to do here is that if this field is empty, then I am going to show all the record. So let's do this. So if car, now this is like a quick lazy way to add this. Input, like if this input field is equals to this, so two quotes with nothing inside it, that indicates to the computer that this is empty, and click enter. I want to show all record. Now what happened is that the script will start from the top and check if this input is empty, then I will show all record, and then it will continue the script to do all the other steps. But if it's showing all record, I don't want it to keep doing the search. So it's either a if it's empty, then I'm going to show all the record. Otherwise, I'm going to search. So what I want to do here is to add something called else. So I'm going to highlight all this and put the whole thing inside it. So if this is empty, then I'm going to show all record, and then I'm not going to do everything else in here. But if this is actually, this input field is not empty, there's something inside it, I am going to find what I want to find in here, and then just click save and see what happens. So SUN and then back. Now you see before we're back, we are still finding all the S record with 75 options here. One more backspace, it's now empty and it's showing everything else. And one last thing to note is that when I'm showing all record, my record is moved to the middle again, and I want to move it back to the top. So I'm going to go to script workspace and then add go to record again, go to first record, and command S to save, and let's go back here to see what happens. So SUN and go back, click again, we are back to the top here with all the different records. And then we're just going to quickly remove the button here because we no longer need it, and go to view, browse mode, and there you have it, like a very simple, it's not exactly simple, but a search as you type function here that you can do in FileMaker, and you can just start typing and then search for things, and then you can immediately see the result, which is very nice and very modern in terms of design. And so we basically scratch through the surface of what FileMaker scripting can do. And What I would suggest to move further if you want to learn more FileMaker scripting is that there are a lot of different scripts in FileMaker that you can learn. Like if you look at here, it's like a long list of things that you can do in FileMaker. And not all of these scripts are very important. There are scripts that are more important than the other. For example, like if, else, and endif, it's more generally used and it's have more utilities in more case. Or perform, find, and sort, it's very important as well. We're working with a database, so finding and sorting data is obviously very important. And if you really want to learn about FileMaker in the shortest amount of time possible and only learning the most important thing first, I'll highly recommend you to check out my new PDF cheat sheet of 17 scripts that every FileMaker beginner needs to learn first. And inside the PDF, I'm going to explain to you the 17 FileMaker script that I believe is the best for beginner, and also explain to you the reason why I want you to learn it first. You can go to the link in the description down below and sign up in the email, and you can get access to this PDF. And I think that's basically it for this tutorial. I hope you understand a little bit more about what scripting is in FileMaker. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.